What is something designed for women that has obviously been designed by a man? Story 1. Weren't there some guys on Shark Tank or something like it that made gloves for women to use to change their menstrual products? They were single use and pink or something. There was another guy, not Shark Tank, who tried to invent some kind of vagina glue so girls could get up in the morning and glue their lips shut instead of worrying about menstrual products at all. Then, when they had to pee, the stream of urine would unseal the lips and flush out all of the blood. After you wipe, you reapply and glue shut until the next time. I don't know how many men he worked with on this idea before someone explained basic biology to this guy, but there were an alarming number of men who thought it was a great idea. I'm a woman and I used single-use gloves for tampons even before the guys on Shark Tank invented the pink ones. I hate getting blood under my nails. I don't like changing my tampons on public toilets with my bare hands. I can't get my hands clean from my own blood stains if I don't have my fingernail brush at hand. On lighter days, I use a menstrual cup when out and about and only change it at home. On the days when I need to change more often, I use gloves. Story 2. Okay, this is a niche, but I hate it whenever I go to sit at a bar and there are no hooks under the bar. Double points if the stools don't have a back where I can loop my purse or coat over the seat back, and I'm stuck piling my purse and or coat in my lap. Same for public restrooms. Please put a hook on the door so I'm not precariously balancing my purse on my lap, or worse, on the floor. The worst is the non-smooth surfaces on the bars. How many panties have I ripped because people don't bother to sand the bottoms of the bar where your knee can touch, or even chairs at an office? This, but for my backpack. I hate putting my cool Star Wars backpack on the ground in restrooms. One of my jobs was cleaning restrooms, and I know how nasty the floors are and how infrequently they are cleaned correctly. I am 100% with you. The stall door hooks, at least, I think are less a function of who did the designing and more of whether theft was considered a concern. I want to say it was the 90s when there was a trend of people stealing bags, etc. from stall doors, so they just started removing the hooks. It's wild also sometimes see hooks midway down the door or on the inside wall because either of those makes it harder to grab from the outside of the stall. I don't think it's much of anything anymore, but I'm sure it's cheaper, so I'm not surprised that once they started being removed, some people just left them off. Story 3. Sports bras and their removable pads. This is the only pet peeve I have. I hate that it is nearly impossible to find a sports bra or bralette with fixed padding when there is no benefit to them being removable. Lazy companies that don't know or care what women actually want. Oh, I like mine. I've removed them for washing and then I put them back in. Once I removed them and threw them away thinking they were useless, but that sports bra is much less comfy than it used to be. I also have a couple with no padding, and those are okay, but I prefer the one with. Story 4. PPE, unisex fit my foot. I give grant money to first responders, and one of the things they buy with our funds are gloves, different suit types, etc. It is generally for training, so depending on the suit and item it is reused, so you would think that they would have a whole variety of sizes. I am 5'5" and overall fairly petite, and every single time I visit them, I make a point to try on the suits, especially any gloves because I have small hands. Not one single fire department had any reusable item that fits me. So, do y'all just not like to hire women? Cause you're supposed to have sizes available for trainees that safely fit them. The only excuses I've heard were that they don't make them in women's sizes, which may at least in part be true, but literally the whole damn point of the grant is to have this stuff available to all trainees, not just the men. They are allowed to pay more to ensure everyone has proper gear to train in. The first responders in charge of purchasing always yuck it up at how silly I look in the massively oversized gear until I remind them that each year more first responders die in training than actual fires. Like, yeah, maybe she wouldn't have been crushed to death when she couldn't control a vehicle properly with gloves 10 sizes too big. An extract from a book I'm reading, Uncultured, a memoir. This is a 20-minute block of instruction on how to wear your new armored vest and carrier. Please lay the combat vest in front of you. So the thing is, he said, holding up a heavy square plate the size of a laptop computer, rotating it lengthwise in front of his chest and then then pulling it snugly against himself. When you put your vest on and this is mounted correctly, y'all want to make sure that this piece of Kevlar is sitting no more than half an inch away from your center of mass. In a firefight, you gotta protect your vital organs, and that's how. When you lose weight, which you will, because the food in the sandbox is crap, you'll need to make sure you get a new vest from Damage Exchange. This is the most important thing any of y'all will hear today. He paused briefly and stamped his foot, the Universal Army gesture to command special attention. If there's too much space in between the plate that stops the bullet and your big old bellies, then the impact of the bullet hitting this here Kevlar can cuss your insides, and they'll be sending those purple hearts home to your families instead of pinning them on you. Y'all hearing me? The fit makes a big difference in whether you get killed by a raghead over there or not. I didn't need to hold mine up to realize I had a problem. So did every other woman. Excuse me, sir. I raised my hand even though I didn't want to, knowing how this conversation would probably go. Can you explain to me how this is supposed to work for the females? He blinked 2 rounded eyes at me, all pretense of joviality gone. Come again? He drew out the letters. This here armor doll, it has nothing to do with your gender. You are gonna want it to stop bullets, not buy you dinner. Yes, I understand the whole not wanting to get shot part, I said as I rose, but can I demonstrate one issue, a rather small one in my case? I shed my fuzzy green overcoat and army combat uniform jacket and turned to face him. Nothing ever fit a woman right in the army. I wore my extra small men's uniform pants hiked up to the narrowest part of my waist to prevent them from falling off of me when I walked. Even for a girl like me, no curves at all, I said, ignoring the tightening inside of my chest as I drew attention to my bust. A plate like this, I pulled it tighter, is gonna give a pretty wide gap between my vital organs and the Kevlar. I've got boobs. A bit of a blocking system built in here. I pivoted to the right, showing him the gap of nearly 3 inches between the plate and my midsection. The contractor scratched his head. I see what you're saying, but I don't know what to tell you. I've never had a soldier whip out their boobs during a briefing, you know? He laughed. But in all seriousness, darling, I don't think you really have to worry about it. You women are not going to be in combat getting shot at, now are ya? Why even bother lugging around a 30-pound weight if it wasn't even guaranteed to keep us alive? Did anyone even care? Story 5. Button-down shirts that don't account for breasts, and if you can button it all the way up, you have these huge gaps in stretching between the buttons. I agree with you, but I don't think it's because it was designed by a man. Less shaping of the garment leads to quicker production. Quicker production leads to more profit. I believe it is a general problem of contemporary clothing. Male clothing as well. Too short trousers, too short sleeves, as if high, slim men don't exist. The small company that makes the work uniforms for the company I'm currently contracting with measures the ladies and makes their size plus boob size for the overalls and shirts. It's absolutely genius, and they all rave about how comfortable their uniforms are. It's 600 plus employees. I reckon 250 of them are women. So they send a lady around every Friday to take measurements. Makes perfect sense to me. That's not men, that's fast fashion's race to the bottom, combined with the fact that if you make shirts to fit an A to C cup, then something like 40 to 60% of women can wear them. But the rest of the women are such a variety of shapes and sizes that you need multiple sizes to accommodate them, and those sizes would be nearly equal in cost to design and create as the single bust size design, but would have something like a quarter of the number of potential customers for the second most useful bust size, and the market would shrink from there. Look at how many bra sizes are available, and imagine that many shirt sizes to see how many offerings would be needed to truly be universal, and even bras aren't even close to fitting all women. Most bra brands don't even offer anything above double D, and not even that for small band sizes, and you've got like 2 styles when they do offer. I'll buy the ugly bra, but I'd rather buy a stretchy knit top than a button down that isn't my color. I wear a 36F bra. I learned to sew because I love button down shirts. Story 6. When you get a needle biopsy, you have to lie on a cold formica table with a sharp-edged hole with your breasts dangling through it. The first time I had to do this, me, women docs, and nurses all commented on the terrible design of the thing. When I had another needle biopsy a few years later, the table had been redesigned. It was now pink. I asked the doctor how far the needle went in. He asked how far I thought it went in. I motioned about 2 inches with my fingers. The doctor looked at the amount I gestured, looked looked at the needle and said I was almost exactly right. I'm very sensitive to needles. I can usually feel them break the skin, then pushed around them, the skin being dragged when removed, etc. At the dentist one time, I asked how many layers he went through in my cheek. He asked how much pain I felt. 6. There are 8 layers in the cheek. Great. I didn't feel all of them, at least. I only go through and into 6 of them. You felt them all. Great. Yes, I had this type done. Stereotactic core needle biopsy. I felt everything. I kept telling them I could feel it. They would give more local anesthesia and a minute later I'd feel it, and they'd give more. Then they said I'd maxed out on what they could give and I must be sensitive and don't take well to numbing. Entirely untrue. And they were almost done, so just hang in there. When they placed the titanium clip, my body involuntarily jumped and they told me to stay still. I didn't jolt by choice. I had to wear a bra 24/7 except for showering for a solid month because it hurt without support. Also, I have small boobs, so this wasn't a gravity-killing thing. Story 7. Razors. I just buy the regular man version if I want to use a razor. It's funny that there's a pink tax and a black tax or blue tax. I, a man, wanted to buy some wet wipes to put in my motorcycle camping bag and looked at the man wipes in super sexy black packaging and noticed the price per wipe was way more expensive than basic wipes that were next to them. In fact, there were about half the wipes for twice the price. Next thing you know, they're going to jack up the price for unisex wipes as a specialty item. Marketing is all about turning a bad thing into a selling point. If they spend a lot of time and money marketing something to women instead of admitting they should be marketed as a unisex item, they have to double down and market the men's version as a specialty. I think the reason you get the pink tax is because ever since women stopped being the main purchaser of the household, neutral has kind of meant men first. The best example is the pen for women. Gendered marketing has utterly ruined the way we look at products. Story 8. The IUD was invented by Richard Richter in 1909, and the design was updated by Ernst Grafenberg. The fact that they insert them without proper anesthesia is just crazy. Source: I'm on my second one. For the uninitiated, they force your cervix open with a plastic needle nose wrench, and it's held open while they place the IUD, which should only take a few seconds. Sometimes they smear a local medication on there for numbing, but that's not effective. It's about 30 seconds of acute pain, 3 days of cramping, but I estimate it's worth it because it buys me 5 whole years of no periods. On balance, it's worth it for me. The doctor who inserted my first one cut the strings really short, and when I told the doctor doing the changeover, she was worried she was going to have to go digging around in there and offered me the freezing. I was super nervous about getting a needle in my cervix, but it made it so much easier. I didn't feel a thing. Holy crap. As an added note, I had lots of bleeding and cramping for about 4 months after my first one. I know lots of people have the same or a worse experience, but once my body was already used to having something in there, I had no reaction at all to the second one. I was prepared to take a couple of weeks off work and I was fine in a couple of hours. My doctor had to dig around for 20 minutes to find the strings on my last one. Super fun times. I also have to get mine changed every 3 years instead of 5 because I have endometriosis, and they stop being as effective after 3 years, and my symptoms come back in full force. So yeah, as much as I love my IUDs for the relief they're providing from my horrible endo symptoms, we're trying to avoid another excision surgery for the time being. Because my spine is falling apart due to unrelated issues, and I'm looking at multiple surgeries soon to keep my spine spinning, which seems to be the most pressing issue, I'm so lucky I'm on pain meds for all of my chronic pain-causing issues, or else my IUD changes would be absolutely brutal. Not that they tickle or anything now, even with pain meds, they suck. My heart sincerely goes out to every person who has had them changed without pain control. Holy crap, it's barbaric what women still have to go through in 2024. Story 9. Car seat belts. Mine slips up all the time and I have it on the lowest setting. I'm a 5'4" tall, so uncomfortable. They didn't even use smaller female-sized crash test dummies in cars until fairly recently. Women are 74% more likely to be injured in frontal road collisions because vehicles are designed with the average male body in mind. I'm 5'6" and those adjustable seatbelts never adjust low enough to fit me properly either. Apparently average humans are bigger than most of us. I recall that one of my relatives, 5'2", actually had to make a vehicle purchase based on that. that. At the time, a lot of European and North American manufacturers didn't have seatbelts that could adjust low enough, didn't have seats that could be elevated enough for good forward visibility and compensation for the seatbelt adjustment range, and had poor rearward visibility due to unfortunate headrest placement in relation to the lack of seat adjustment range. So they ended up going with a JP manufacturer because all three matters were resolved by seat adjustment with fantastic ranges, longer seatbelt adjustment tracks, and tilt wheel. I drive a Honda CR-V. I'm 5'4" with big breasts. I tuck the shoulder strap under my left arm because if I don't, it goes up over my boobs and under my right armpit, putting the shoulder strap directly across my throat. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that a front-end collision, my throat is crushed regardless of the airbag. Tried to explain that to a cop in Las Vegas when I got pulled over for not wearing it properly. Got a ticket anyway. I shamed him with, I guess protect and serve only applies to men, as he was ripping the ticket off his handheld printer. Story 10. Speculum. This reminds me of when I went to the health department for an exam. I didn't have insurance at the time, and that was the only way I could get birth control. There are different speculum sizes for women who have and haven't given birth. They used one for women who have given birth to my then virgin self, and then yanked that sucker around in there like my vagina was just begging to be beaten up. She, the woman who I affectionately refer to as Helga, yanked that thing around in there while yelling, "Where is your thyroid? Why can't I find your thyroid?" Now, I'm no doctor, but even I know my thyroid isn't down there, which means this torture isn't stopping anytime soon. I kept trying to escape, and she kept grabbing my hips and dragging me back down the table. Finally, she did find my thyroid, aka my cervix. As it turns out, I have a uterus that tilts back instead of forward. A normal OB can find the cervix with no problem because they are familiar with that difference. Helga, on the other hand, not so much. I never did go back to the health department after that, and thankfully got health insurance so I could go to a proper job. Ugh. Ah, the speculum. My girlfriend in my last few years at university, mid-80s a while ago, invited me to her gynecology appointment. We had been talking about various things around sexuality, and she said it was a chance for me to see exactly what's going on in there. She pre-arranged it with her gynecologist, who was a woman, and I suppose it wasn't that unusual for the OBGYN to have another person there because she was at a teaching hospital. So the speculum was not metal, it was clear plastic, and the lube was definitely warmed. It was a bit surreal to be invited to look between my girlfriend's legs and inspect all of what was going on, externally and internally. She also held a mirror so that my girlfriend could see as well. There was no pap smear done, so that's still something I've only got secondhand knowledge of, but I certainly believe that it can be very uncomfortable and or painful. In any case, that experience has certainly stuck with me, as has being at the receiving end when each of our two sons was born. A full head of hair crowning is definitely an unexpected thing to see coming out of there. Clarification, births were with my wife, a different person. Story 11. Toilet cubicle. Never enough room for sanitary bins. Gaps between the wall and the door and the floor. No flat surface to set things down on. Often no hooks on the doors for bags, etc. Toilet paper dispenser of doom that rattles and will only give you half an inch of paper before ripping, and you have to start over. Doors that open inward. I can keep going. Honestly, the door opening inward bothers me way more than the door gaps. Often these stupid public bathroom stall doors open inward, but the stalls are so small you have to practically straddle the toilet because the door almost reaches the toilet seat. Who thought this was a good design? Okay, as an American, I have to deal with some spectacularly stupid bathroom designs. If I could rant for a minute, the gaps. Why? What problem is this solving? I work at an elementary school, and if the employee bathroom is occupied, and I have to poop, I have to deal with a swarm of children literally staring through the gap to see why an adult is in their bathroom. Pointless. Why are TP holders, waste bins, and anything else all mounted at the same level as your legs? I have been in some small-ass stalls that somehow also decided to put the TP holder at the same exact spot your legs are supposed to go. This is straight up the dumbest possible positioning. Raise it a foot or two. Maybe move it forward 6 inches. Hell, I'd rather it be behind me. Stop shoving everything into my leg space, you absolute morons. The seats. Why are public toilet seats so thin and short? There's no lid, so when you flush, poop flies through the air. The seat doesn't wrap all the way around the toilet. and has a gap in front, so even if the seat is clean, you run the risk of just raw dogging the straight toilet bowl. Sometimes I wonder if America's bathrooms were designed by aliens who have never pooped before. I actually talked to someone on Reddit about everything installed at the wrong level. He was astonished at the complaints from women because he had literally never thought about the fact that women sit and spread their legs to use the bathroom. It had simply never occurred to him to consider how the bathroom was actually used. His job was simply to go in and put things in, and that's how they were everywhere else. So he didn't even think about it. He had been in the business for like 20 years. The lack of critical thinking and empathy around design for women is so common. Story 12. Tampons, considering they didn't think to test them with actual blood until last year. When I first heard about that, it made me realize what is considered light, medium, and heavy flow is off, and the amount of times a tampon is changed can differ from brand to brand, so it makes no sense when someone asks how much you're bleeding or how often you change your pad. Some doctors actually showed the volumes you should have. Another showed what it means if they are certain colors. Both were very informative. I was going to say the tampons and cardboard applicators. My husband kept getting them because they were cheaper. I finally sat him down and explained to him that they hurt and why they hurt. A dick isn't cylindrical with sharp edges. Nothing else that goes in there should be either. He got it after that and never bought the cardboard ones again. Thankfully, I've had an ablation done about 4 months ago, and this last period was the lightest yet. I bled for half a day, so hopefully I won't need them anymore. Unfortunately, my fallopian tubes have decided they are pissed about the ablation, so I hurt all the time in my pelvic region now. My boss told me it is just going to take time for them to get happy again. I had my tubes tied after my last kid almost 5 years ago. Side note, I know tampons are used in emergencies for things like a bullet wound, so I have a feeling guys have tested them. They just haven't tested them in a naturally occurring hole. Story 13. Women's power tools. They're just a pink version of the men's tools. Or they are just less powerful versions. No redesign of the weight, shape, or grip size to make them easier to hold for our body shapes, just a pink tax. And why is pink always the default color? I hate pink. Madame de Pompadour, a French courtesan in the mid-18th century, loved pink. And her influence saw other high society Parisian women who took their cues from her also start wearing pink. And subsequently, most women in the West who took their cues from the women of Paris started wearing pink until pink became the default female color. And for a while, it was debated. It feels so ingrained in our culture that I feel like pink equals women is a tale as old as time, but it's obviously not. Around 100 years ago, when pink was really becoming the default, there were actually many places that saw it as manly, because it's just washed out red. And I guess red is associated with blood and strength and battle. In Belgium, my sister has had sweet little old Belgian ladies not like that she puts her girls in pink. Watch the old Disney 101 Dalmatians cartoon. The female dogs wear light blue collars. The male one is red. The same with the pups, so not even that long ago. Historically, light blue is a female-associated color, from the classic shroud that the Virgin Mary wears. And yes, pink is just washed out red, the quintessential masculine-coded color. Story 14. Hiking backpacks with a breast strap. I love backpacking, but explicitly avoid taking any photos with my pack on because when wearing it properly, my boobs basically get squished into my belly and it looks like I'm halfway through a Play-Doh extruder. You can find women's cut backpacks where the chest strap is higher placed, so it sits above the breasts near the clavicle rather than directly on top of the breasts. They're so much more comfy to wear. Yeah, in my experience, most backpacks marketed as women's are actually cut differently. My husband and I both have Osprey, which is the same model and volume, but mine is shorter and fatter, and he is longer. The lumbar area hits differently. Straps are placed differently and adjustable, etc. He actually has a harder time finding a well-fitting pack than I do because he's 6'6" with a long torso, and the hip straps usually sit too high. Day packs are different though, I'll give you that. They usually don't have nearly as much effort put into fit because you aren't carrying as much weight. Story 15. I had a baby and we used bottles to administer formula. The numbers and ounces indicator lines were in white. White. The worst of that type for me was the Dr. Brown's with the opaque plastic, uncolored indicators. I used to hold my thumb at the line I was filling to and pour until it hit that mark. Bunch of idiots. I worked in packaging and we made powdered instant formula containers, and one male packaging engineer asked why everything had to be set up to be used with one hand. I offered to go get my 8-month-old out of daycare so that he could hold her while interacting with the product. Better yet, we could pop over at 2 a.m. To be fair, he's since had a kid and seems to be a very involved dad. Story 16. Most lingerie. Bras. I think if someone made a decent supportive bra that is recommended to be machine washed and dried, they would clean up. I do it anyway, but they don't last long if you don't hand wash. Whoever came up with this idea that women actually like to hand wash their bras and have them hanging around cluttering up the bathroom or laundry room to drip dry has not spoken to a woman in a century or so. Washing machines and dryers have delicate cycles. We have net bags to put them in. There is no reason regular bras and sports bras and bralettes and such should need to be hand washed. We talk about the pink tax. What about the pink time tax? Who has time for hand washing? The first thing I'm looking at for new clothes and such is the care instructions on the tag. I do all the laundry, so I want to know if it's going to be a pain. Yeah, it looks hot as hell, but now it's been through the wash and it's a Gorgon knot. I'm too dumb to untangle. The net/delicate bags are nice, but maybe the bras should just be able to handle it. At least most sports bras you can just toss in there. Story 17. Clothes. Hardly any pockets. If they do, it's rare they have a decent size that actually holds items in. Handbags. Many are too small and useless for any woman carrying more than one card and a little bit of cash. Seatbelts. They don't fit right because they were designed for breastless people apparently. Found a nice leather biker jacket at the flea market, and since it fit well despite being a men's size, I bought it. I mean, come on, real leather for $15, I'm not leaving that crap there. And since my best friend has the same design, your basic asymmetrical biker jacket with zippers in women, so we compared pockets. On hers, the side pockets fit her phone and maybe a smaller wallet. The diagonal breast zipper is a fake pocket. Tiny button closure pocket is also fake. On mine, the side pockets fit my phone, keys, old wallet, and my hand at the same time. The diagonal breast pocket is about the same size, and the small buttoned one fits a lighter. It also has 3 inside pockets, one with a zipper. This is honestly ridiculous. Hers is not slimmer, and there is enough space to make the same storage space. Story 18. Tampax, and possibly other brand tampon. It swells in length instead of getting wider when expanding. It's pushing you in spots nobody wants to ever feel pressure, in my opinion. It's just not correct anatomically speaking. Apparently, many got genuinely sick from using them due to this. I haven't seen any official reports, to be frank, just reading it up on the internet and some anecdotal evidence. And it's causing pain for others, including me. It hurt like hell and definitely was not comfortable at all at any point. You just cannot not feel it. When I lived in the UK, I either had to spend a small fortune on buying OB tampons from various sites on the internet, or ask someone to bring me some when they were visiting a country that had them, as they're not being sold in the UK. I tried several other brands, including Lidl and drugstore's own brands, and while OB was the best in my opinion, most were not as uncomfortable as Tampax was, besides a few. I do apologize for not naming more, but Tampax is the most common as far as I've seen, and I've tried so many brands I just can't remember their names. Story 19. Birth control. Because most women, even nowadays, still don't know it is perfectly safe not to get a period when you are on it. The 7-day pill gap was invented by men and priests back in the day so the pill would look like it keeps the normal cycle. It does not, and you don't need a period when you are on the pill. OMG, I couldn't believe it when I found this out from my doctor. I was crying about my terrible symptoms and how it was basically ruining my life, and he said that I could take birth control continuously for 3 months without stopping. So I could have stopped my periods, mostly this whole time, due to now being so much happier in BC, and my symptoms have lessened significantly. I wish men would stop butting in on what we can and cannot do with our bodies. It's none of their business. I just want to not be miserable. Thanks. Story 20. 99% of women's clothing. no pockets, waist short enough for an Oompa Loompa that just gets wider, never longer, underwear that scrunches up your ass regardless of its modest size, pants that create muffin tops, pants that you can't bend your legs in because of calf muscles apparently aren't fashionable, coochie splitting jumpers where the waist is never long enough, cold shirts with sleeves that track in everything, fragile crappy lacy shirts to be seen in / freeze in, jackets with no pockets, jeans and pants with no pockets, shoes you can't run in, flimsy delicate fabrics that look nice but have to be handled carefully in washing, silky or stretchy fabrics that look great on stationary mannequins but creep and crawl every time you move, so you're constantly tucking your clothes back into place, shirts and dresses with weak front closures, sundresses with straps either too long or too short because they were made for some mysterious average height, sweaters so thin they don't qualify and won't keep you warm, etc. Story 21. Not as much these days, but kitchens. More men cook now than previously, but kitchens are still used more by women, and mostly designed by men. My husband was a good cook. We shared the kitchen, but things I couldn't reach were no problem for him. We both hated the kitchen in this house. I still do, but we never got around to changing it. To be honest, I don't know how well the average person, any make or model, would do at designing a kitchen. You'd have to build them and use them to find the flaws and figure out how to do it better. Things don't always work in practice, as well as they look on paper or in the computer program. I've always thought kitchens were designed by men who don't cook. Every apartment I've ever had, the kitchen seemed to be designed without workflow in mind. Not enough counter space, the refrigerator is in an inconvenient spot, shelves are too shallow to hold cookware, no space for a trash can near workspaces, etc. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.